Alrighty, g'day everybody in the Business Brain Food Facebook group. How are you this morning? Hopefully you're doing well. I'm super excited. You're getting an early look into the behind the scenes as Mark and Ann join me from Atlanta, Georgia. All the way from Atlanta, Georgia. How you guys going?
We're doing great.
Wonderful, thank you.
Excellent. Alrighty. So if you've got questions during the live, you are able to ask. I'll be monitoring the questions over here. So if I look like I'm looking over here, that's because it's not that I'm not paying attention. It's just I'm looking at the other screen to answer, to see if there's any questions. We're going to be talking to Mark and Ann today about virtual assistants. So they run a company called HireSmart. And we're going to answer all your questions about hiring VAs. That's really what today's show is all about. And as a Business Brain Food group member, you're getting early access to this behind the scenes of this podcast recording. Doesn't go out to the public for a few weeks, so you're really quite lucky to be getting this early. And so make sure you ask your questions in there. I will do my best to get those questions across to Mark and Ann as we go through the chat today. All right, guys. So are you ready?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. So what I'm going to do is get you to do the pre-intro. So who wants to do that, or do you want to do it together? How do you want to do it?
Usually we do it tag team. I'll start.
Okay, yeah. So the pre-intro is we're going to record you saying, hi, this is Mark and Ann Lackey from HireSmart, and then give us your quick 10-second elevator speech for your company, and then say you're listening to the Business Brain Food podcast. All righty, when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Ann Lackey.
We're with HireSmart Virtual Assistants.
And we help business owners reduce overwhelm and who have had employees that just quit, try to keep that under wraps and have amazing hires.
And you're listening to
the Business Brain Food podcast.
All right, let's try again.
Write that down.
I got it here. I just couldn't.
Business Brain Food
podcast.
You got it. All right. So you've had a practice now. Off you go.
Hi, I'm Ann Lackey with HireSmart Virtual Assistants.
And I'm Mark Lackey. And we help business owners that are having challenges with their hiring. They're overwhelmed. People just quit. They've got a turnover. And we provide virtual assistants to help them grow their business.
And you're listening to the Business Brain Food podcast.
How good was that? Awesome. All right. So now I'm going to do my intro. So just hang in there and it'll make sense when you get to come on the show. All right. It'll only take me a couple of minutes. Well, welcome back to the Business Brain Food podcast. This, my friend, is the podcast that is 100% devoted to taking you and your business to the next level. And the good news is, it doesn't matter whether you're just brand new to this business thing, so maybe you're just scratching that entrepreneurial itch, or maybe you're like myself and you've been in business for a long, long time and you've got the scars and the wounds to prove it. No matter what, there's always something we can do to take our business to the next level. And today is absolutely no different. Very, very excited to have Mark and Ann Lackey coming onto the show very shortly to share with you all the pros and cons, ups and downs, and tips and traps of hiring virtual assistants in your business. We'll get to them very, very shortly. Before we do that, just a reminder that the show is brought to you by Maxmyprofit.com.au. The team at Maxmyprofit help you build the business you imagined. So if you went into business imagining something that was more profitable, more fun, maybe something that gave you the time and money to do the stuff that you love, but instead you've ended up with a big ball and chain that drags you down, that you're unhappy having to get out of bed for each day, then you need to talk to the team at Maxmyprofit.com.au. They'll help you with everything from marketing, sales, team, systemization, making more money out of your business, whatever it is, they'll help you with that. So head to maxmyprofit.com.au to learn more. Alrighty, so today we do have Mark and Ann Lackey all the way from Georgia, Atlanta, joining us to have a chat with us about hiring a virtual assistant. Now, given the fact that we've all been through this COVID-19 time very recently, I'm sure a lot of you have got really used to working remotely, but these guys have been doing it for a long time. So really good to have them coming on the show and share their thoughts and insights with us about how to make sure that if you're going to hire a VA, that you do it well and it's a success. So welcome to the show, Mark and Ann.
Thanks, Ben.
You. It's great to be here.
Great to have you here all the way from Georgia, Atlanta.
That's right. We love it here. Nice and hot.
Fantastic. Now, if you are in the Facebook group, guys, you'll be watching this live as we stream live. And if you're not, if you're listening to this as a recorded podcast, you can jump into facebook.com into the Business Brain Food group. You'll be able to ask questions live. For those of you that are watching live, by the way, you're more than welcome to ask questions as we go through the chat today. So please feel free to do that. So can you guys maybe give us a bit of a rundown on how did you end up getting into the VA space?
Well, that's actually a funny story. So Mark and I run several businesses, and one of our businesses had a marketing manager quit via text on our first vacation in 7 years. And so we looked at each other and went, well, this
There's got to
really
be a
sucks.
better way.
There's got to be something better to this. And so we got introduced to the concept of full-time dedicated virtual assistants. And we thought, that sounds pretty interesting. And so we hired our first virtual assistants from the Philippines. And about 4 months after that, one of our good friends is another CEO. And she said, you're happy. What happened to you? And so we said, well, we hired a full-time dedicated virtual assistant from the Philippines. And she said, well, I want one. And so Hire Smart was born about 5 years ago, right this month, as a matter of fact. And we've been helping business owners ever since find amazing talent from the Philippines.
Yeah. Okay. And so do you just focus in the Philippines? Is that where all your VAs are?
They are. We've got that very well dialed in. Every country has their own cultural, nuances. And so we've decided to focus on the Philippines for a few reasons. And it's been very, very successful. Matter of fact, our first VA placement that we did 5 years ago still works for that CEO that I was just telling you about today. So we have longevity in that as well, which is part of what we wanted to do, reduce that turnover that a lot of business owners have.
Yeah. So was it when you went from that? I mean, what a way to have somebody resign, number one, SMS.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It was not much fun.
Yeah. So when you went from that and you decided to take that leap into virtual, I mean, a lot of people struggle with that. Did you struggle with that in the beginning?
Honestly, I did. It took me about 6 months. I'm a planner, right? So I wanted to find out everything I needed to know in advance. And so we did that.
We made the list of pluses, minuses, and, there was a lot of minuses we had to overcome. And then we looked at it, we said, well, this would work great for us. But we really didn't have enough work for somebody to come full time. We didn't want anybody part time because if you get a call center or something, you never know who's answering the phone and how they're going to be received. So we wanted somebody dedicated to us. So we went through, made a list of all the job requirements, everything that we wanted them to do. We decided, well, we can keep somebody busy at least 30 hours a week. And so we dove in, took the dive, and brought on board a VA.
And what we quickly found is that we had way more work than even 30 hours.
Yeah.
Once we felt comfortable that they could do the work, right?
Yeah, then it became the second VA, the third VA, and the fourth VA.
Yeah. So it's been amazing.
Because I think a lot of people are challenged by that, by finding the work to be like, how do you pick what you're going to give to a VA? And
Sure.
Is there stuff that it's just too hard to give to a VA?
Actually, no. I mean, after doing this now pretty regularly for a wide variety of different businesses, hundreds and hundreds of placements, I can tell you that literally a virtual assistant, if properly vetted and screened, that's a key component, right? Can do anything that you can do via a computer and a phone. So one of our businesses, we have to have what's called boots on the ground. VAs don't really work in that particular role, but there's a lot of different facets they do. Anything in customer service, sales support, general administration, accounting, back office admin, you name it, it can be done.
Yeah. What's the funniest task that someone's asked a VA to do?
Funniest.
I don't know that there's anything necessarily funny.
Or out the box, anything?
No, I guess we have pretty dull clients. I mean, most of it, like I said, a lot of it's routinary work that really is just monotonous. We can't find people here in the US that want to do repetitive tasks over and over again.
We call it the same seven questions. The business owner gets the phone call in and there's repetitive questions that come in all day long and you can't get anything else done because you're too busy answering those 7 questions. Mm-hmm. And so if you can have a script and an email script that's available and have somebody that's available to answer those questions, we both get about 300 emails a day and only about 5 of those really need our attention. They're not the standards or they're not the ones that don't require personal attention. And so our VA is going to take care of all of those for us. And it frees up hours and hours every day.
So tell us about that, because I think some people are uncomfortable with that. Even for me, getting my head around how do I get somebody to go through all my emails and work out what I need to get? What if they don't send something through that I should have got?
A lot of that comes with the training and setup that we do to help our clients. I mean, my goal when I talk to clients is say 80% of the work you're doing, you probably shouldn't be doing. I mean, honestly. So if you can find somebody that's talented enough to address the 80% of the work that you shouldn't be doing, that frees you up to do more of what you want to do. And for some of our clients, it's to grow. For others of us, like for us, it was more just a lifestyle. Like we wanted to have
free time.
free time together. So it works for those instances. Now, if you're a control freak and you're really afraid, that's a lot harder to manage, but you have to determine what's your why and why are you in business and what do you want to do?
And it's that 80-20 rule, it's looking at what you don't want to do, but it's looking at that 20% that you're not giving the time and attention to that would move your business forward, that would make that business grow, that's giving it new clients coming in, new ideas, whatever that is. If you don't have time for that every day, you're losing out. And so this use of a VA will give you that additional time back.
Yeah. So I've heard a lot of people trying to hire VAs and really failing at it, really struggling to find somebody. And then, they just put it down. It just doesn't work. But then I see other people like yourselves that have made it really work well. So there must be some key ingredients that people need to think about when it comes to hiring a VA. And you having now done it for years, I'm sure you've worked that out. What are some tips you can give people? Why do you think some people just struggle with it? Why do they have such big failures?
Well, I think there's a couple of different reasons that I found that people don't succeed. The first is most people don't know how to hire, period. You don't know how to hire locally. That's not a course in college that we learn to take, right? So unless you've had like 30 years of HR experience like I've had, you don't really know what to do. And you certainly don't know how to adapt it for a global culture, right?
So you hire somebody you like, whether they can do the job or not. Oh, I'm going to hire Sally. She needs a job. Or Joe's cousin's wife wants work, and that's how you do it.
So we tend to hire people in general that really aren't fully vetted and screened. So I think that's number one. Like you need to work with a professional that understands how to do that. Then the second part is, again, it goes back to the control issue that we were just talking about. You've got to be able to kind of let yourself not be perfect. We learned something many years ago that done is better than perfect, and we were okay with that. It's not 100%. We make mistakes. Our VAs make mistakes. We're human. Most people can understand that. Very, very few things are that egregious. So control, I think, is the next kind of big chunk that people need to get through. And then the third, which is just, again, it's in managing people, is you have to be able to communicate your expectations. A lot of times people get frustrated. And in my opinion, the way I define frustration is expectations not being met. And those expectations were never communicated in advance. We just assume people know what we're supposed to do or what we think.
They treat them like a tool. I mean, a knife cuts paper, cut. And that's all they wanted to do is be a tool. But if you can give them an insight of what your business is and all the different pieces and parameters, and that's what we do with us and our clients, they have a better insight. And so what they can do is much more productive. They can actually add comments and add ideas. So we do hear a lot of those failures of, oh, VAs don't work. This is never going to be successful. I've tried it before. And typically it's the communication, the bad hire. They treat them like a tool, and they don't make it inclusive into their organization.
Yeah. Okay. So they just, yeah. And I think that's one of the key things. So with somebody remote, we've got this technology like we've got for this, is to record this podcast. Obviously you can use that a lot with anybody, anywhere in the world, but how do you make it so VAs do feel like they're included in the business as part of it?
That's a great question. And one of the things that I preach all day long is treat them like you would an employee. So, again, if you've got a brick and mortar business like you normally would, you would not necessarily walk down the hall and not say hello to your people. At least I would hope you wouldn't do that, right? You would say, good morning, how are you doing? You just have to walk down the virtual hallway and say, good morning, how are you today? And make it an actual conscious effort. So that's number one is doing your greetings, your morning. I also believe very, very strongly in that weekly meetings with all of my team members individually. help me manage better. It also helps me manage my time because the employees know, whether virtual or in-house, that they have that set time to talk to me about whatever it is. And that's their time. It's their 30 minutes.
Yeah, they can brag about what's going
Right,
well, what they need help with. Well, we go through some of the same basic questions each week, but then they're included and we get to know them. And part of it is, how's the family going?
Right.
Because you would do that as somebody at the office. How's your family? I heard
Yeah.
Joe was sick or whatever.
And then having them in the company meetings. So we have in one of our companies, we have a staff meeting every Thursday morning, and everybody shows up, and Bonnie, who is one of our virtual workers in this company, she's in charge of her part of the meeting. She's in the marketing department. She replaced that other girl that quit. And so, she's
there on her
role.
iPad, paying attention, watching all, and seeing everybody.
And she takes notes. So I don't ever have to take notes at a meeting ever again, which is also nice.
Yeah, that's great.
And then she lists who's supposed to do what. So we kind of get a cohesive, not only what am I supposed to do, but what is everybody else in the company responsible for? And that really does help that bonding. But I always tell my clients, use whatever communication tools are natural to you. Some people love email. Some people love Skype. Some people love Slack. Some people like Google Hangouts. It doesn't matter what you like. The channel doesn't matter. It's that you're using the channel.
Use it.
Yeah.
So the week we call them huddles. We have the weekly huddles. Some mornings it's we have to touch base too and let everybody know that, hey, priorities have changed. You had a list last night of things that needed to get finished up. Well, something changed in the business and we need to change that. But we include them in all of those meetings and they're inclusive. And you know how it is at a meeting too. A little bit of camaraderie goes on, some other thing. And so you get to know each other on a personal level.
The meeting before the meeting.
Yeah, the meeting before the meeting and then the meeting after the meeting.
Yeah.
The real meeting.
And we allow time for that.
And we encourage that. So
Yeah.
that togetherness occurs.
Yeah, because I think that's important. I mean, that's one of the challenges with virtual. I mean, the other thing, for people is feeling confident that person is working as well. Because I think there's a perception that if someone is remote, they may not might not be working all the time. So is there tools that you use, or how do you make sure that your team members are productive all the time?
And that's really an interesting question, because the answer to that 3 months ago would be different, because we've experienced COVID and everybody is a virtual employee, it seems like. I mean, every company we know sent their employees home. They sent them home with equipment, or they didn't send them with equipment. They didn't know what to do, but they've all become virtual employees. So they're all now learning how to manage the remote worker. Well, we learned years ago how to do that. And Ann does that so geniusly by having our staff members do what we call a close of business report.
And a close of business report is basically based on the KPIs of the position. And I love to manage by KPIs because
key performance indicators for people who don't recall.
Thank you. And that really, I think, sets the tone. Again, it's about expectations, right? So in my in-house workers, I have KPIs that they need to meet, and my virtual also have KPIs. So every day I get a report that said, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, and I can quickly go, okay, was it a good day? There are always time tracker software. I'm not a big fan personally, but certainly we have clients that want to engage that level of detail. But I don't do that in my in-house employees. So for me to do it, I feel like we're treating them like second-class citizens by doing that. And I want all of my team members to be fully invested, because they're all smart, they're all amazing, and I want them to feel like they are treated just like an employee.
Whether they work there locally or they're virtual.
So
they're all treated the same unless they give us reason to believe not to.
Yeah. So what were some of the gotchas in the beginning? I mean, when you first transitioned from having employees in-house to going virtual, what were some of the things that you learned the hard way?
Well, one thing was kind of a shock was, we would create this amount of work that we thought equivalent was 30 hours worth per week. And our first staff member was Teresa. And we'd give it to Teresa. In about 15 to 19 hours, she'd come back and say, I'm finished. And we're like, whoa, wait a minute. It took our staff member here about 30 hours to get that done. What was different? And what we quickly learned is there's not as many interruptions. We don't have as much water cooler talk. There's not the discussion about what happened in sports over the weekend or some show on TV or whatever. They're more productive and able to focus. So one of the biggest ahas was, whoa, I've got to have more work ready for them.
I think the biggest gotcha for me, again, as a manager, managing my first virtual employee, was I didn't have somebody like me to help guide. Like I guide my clients. So I didn't have somebody like me to kind of help navigate some of the cultural differences and some of the things that are different working virtually. And I remember Teresa, and she was always looking for that affirmation. And I'm not an affirmation person. Like I'm not a smiley face, thumbs up kind of girl. And so I had to kind of train myself to give her what she needed to be successful.
To send her an emoji every now and then.
Literally, I never used an emoji before in my life, but the Filipino culture loves those emojis and all of that. So I've had to train myself that one, it's okay, even though it's not business necessarily, if it makes them feel good about it, or if it makes them feel like they're contributing, then I need to adapt to that. So that was kind of I won't say it was a gotcha, but it was a realization that was very, very different for me, and took me quite a bit of time to get my groove on with that. Cause it took a long time to figure out that was something I needed to do to make them feel connected.
And the other thing about it, we place and have been placing with hundreds of businesses, hundreds of VAs, and all of ours are full-time and dedicated to a business. So they work at that business, they report in just like a regular employee. They don't work for other companies. And understanding the individuals and the culture there was kind of an eye-opener. We didn't realize how important birthdays were.
Oh, totally.
I mean, here my birthday comes and goes and it's no big deal.
It's important to me. He hasn't figured that out after 23 years.
But there, birthday is a great big thing. So if you want to reward somebody with a day off, what do? You give them a paid day off for their birthday. And so it's learning those little pieces like that. We share all those ideas with our clients, and we make sure that they have that in advance so that the client can look good to the member. So.
Yeah. And how do you go about, hiring somebody in another country? Have you got a dedicated office over there? Are they all working from home, or how do you run that?
They all work from home. We have a business partner over there that lives and resides in the Philippines. So he's in charge of the taxes, the payroll, the benefits, all of that. He takes care of all of that for us. And I remember when we first were talking to him, and he's like, sure, I can do this for you. Remember way back in the day.
Yeah,
and
one or two a week.
We're going to make you a really big business. Are you okay with that? And he goes, yeah, sure. I don't think he actually believed us. Well, now
he didn't have confidence.
Well, now, 5 years later, we've made him a very wealthy man. And we have really our partnership has blossomed to such a great degree that we've really impacted a lot of lives there in the Philippines, which makes him really happy. And we've impacted lots of lives here in the U.S.
And Ann mentioned the benefits, because one thing that we've done, and we're really proud of this, we have offered to all of our VAs a very high level HMO healthcare program. And that is unheard of for virtual assistants, people in the call centers for the Fortune 500 companies and all. None of them get health care, and they're on some basic program offered through the government. We're providing to them at no additional cost. And when we announced that, we were a couple of years in, you would not believe the number of texts, emails, notes, emojis that Ann was getting about how helpful, how grateful that staff was there, because that reaches all across their families.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? And that's one of the things. There's the cultural differences too. It is not, when you live in somewhere like America or Australia or something, and we're very fortunate to be in a country that does have good healthcare and usually good economics, etc. Some of these other countries don't have that support. How do you find that? Does that affect the mindset of these employees, these virtual assistants, in the way that they operate?
Of course it does. But again, we take care of that for them. And because we do that, we're able to attract the top 1% of workers. Mark was saying that, the only way you can get high level healthcare is to work for a BPO company. And it's a 2-hour drive there, a 2-hour drive back. It's a hard life where we allow them to get those 4 hours a day back, be with their family, have that flexibility, and have the healthcare not only for them, but for their dependents. It's really a huge, huge benefit to them. And that's how we're able to really attract amazing talent.
And then they stick with our clients. We've got our first hire with our friend that we were having lunch with that says, I want one, right? That got us started in this. MJ still works for that lady and is still there on the front lines 5 years later because of the benefits, the opportunities. These are careers for the folks in the Philippines. People in America and Australia won't really understand a career answering the phone of the same 7 questions over and over and over again. And yes, it is, because there's just not enough jobs there.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? And so, I mean, you mentioned before, Anne, that you wish that in the beginning, you had some sort of a service like your own. And of course, I mean, you're going to be a bit biased now because you do provide this service, but I can see a benefit. I mean, it's no different to using a recruitment agency. A lot of people struggle with recruitment. How does a company like yours make sure that somebody does get the right VA? Because it is difficult. I think a lot of people struggle with it.
Well, again, I'm a professional recruiter, and that's what I do. Is I go and source based on the client profile, the type of person that they need. And so I run the job applications, vet them, screen them. We have a testing program that we put them through. We have profiles of each kind of role and what it takes to be successful in that role. So we have a personality profile. We have a metrics that we use that has been fully vetted over and over and over again. And then probably the secret sauce of Hire Smart, that's something that nobody else does, is after our clients make a selection of a VA. So we give them 3 to choose from. I host the
3
interviews.
that are fully qualified to do the job. It's just, which one would you like to work with, right?
And I host the interviews for them, and I kind of unpack the personalities for the client. Let's say they pick Joe. Well, then I work with Joe, me personally, and my team for 40 hours the following week to put them through the paces, because we've all had people that have had amazing resumes, sounded great, always had all the right answers, but literally the second day they show up, you're like, oh, this person can't work. Like they test well, everything looks great on paper, but they just, when you start working elbow to elbow with them, they don't have the skill set to perform.
Yeah, the third day they're not communicating with you. There's something, an indicator there that you couldn't tell in the 2 hours on an interview, right?
But you can't hide from me for 40 hours. It's impossible. And this time last year, we had a 20% fallout rate for my certification class. We've now gotten that down to 12 by tweaking our metrics a little bit.
So 12% are selected by the client out of the 3 potentials. They go to this 40-hour class and 12% don't make it through to the end. So we start back and hire a new person for our client.
And a lot of that is not because they don't have the skills. Like they've been fully vetted for that part. A lot of it has to do with those soft skills, that communication, the ability to pick up material quickly, all of that. And so our certification class really gives us the ability to have a 97.2 success rate in our placements because of our process in the beginning, and then our certification after the selection.
How much of the failure is because the client's not good at communicating or using tools with the VA? Does that sometimes happen?
It very rarely happens. I make sure the clients are fully prepped before we go forward to this. There have been, in all of my years, I've only had 2 clients that I would not replace a VA for because of their actions.
Yeah, okay. Because
they were just poor managers, period.
They were screaming at the VA, and I won't tolerate that.
But there must be people that struggle with the technology and the tools and the new communication methods. I mean, for you guys now, it's just second nature. And this is one of the dangers of when you do something every day and it's simple to you, to somebody who's never hired a VA before, never worked with somebody remotely. And I know COVID-19 certainly probably made it more obvious to people what tools to use, etc. But there's still a lot of people that would not know what tools to use. There's still people that, you mentioned before, things like Slack. There'd be a lot of people that never heard of Slack, right? But to you, it's just part of your lingo because that's pretty common for remote workers. So are there things that people need to be thinking about or getting their head around before they hire from a tools point of
Again,
view?
I help them with all of that. So
Yeah.
we actually, part of my process is we do a 30-minute technology consult. And my goal in that consult is to literally try to fit the VA into whatever is normal for them. So, if they already have a Slack channel, then that's what we're going to use. If they don't have a Slack channel, I'm not going to recommend that. Like, I'm going to say, look, use something like Skype, which is free and easy. And here's how you use it.
They already know how to use it.
Here's how you set it up. Well, some of our clients don't use Skype, but if they have no other tools, that's the easiest one I try to broach with them because it is so simple. And we practice before they get, all the VAs know it. So a lot of that is again, because you're absolutely right. That's a lot of people, they don't know what they don't know. And that's why having us who've done it so many times coming before them and helping them go through the paces. And one of the things we don't do is do a data dump. Like literally we're a concierge service. So I always tell people we're a custom wedding dress. When you need that VA, because you need that perfect fit, we're your people. If you can buy your dress off the rack, it might work, it might fit, but it's not going to be as good a fit as what I can do for you. And so that's, again, a lot of the hand holding, a lot of the things that make it easy for people to step into this. And the cost savings is tremendous overall as well. I mean, here, most of my clients are able to save anywhere from 50 to 75% of their employee payroll costs by utilizing our service. So it's literally, it's a win-win-win kind of all the way around to help them.
And what about those people that think you're putting jobs offshore when you shouldn't be? I mean, especially now, unemployment's gone up because of COVID.
Yeah.
Unemployment.
We have gotten some of that, and what I try to do is share the stories that my clients have shared with me. And so I'll just, if it's okay, I'll share one with you.
Yeah, please. Yeah, go for it.
So we have a fairly large client up in Washington, DC. And before he hired me, all of his workers were working till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night because they just couldn't get the work done. Once he started using me and having success, he said to me a year afterwards, he said, I am so proud that when I walk the halls at 5:30, it's like crickets. Everybody's able to go home. There's work-life balance. I am able I'm able to give a better quality of life to my in-house staff and let them do the things that they really want to do and shine. So a person now can manage more, but do what they like to do, and it's not as stressful on them. And then we have the VAs that's kind of support and underpin.
And the VAs are answering, I mentioned earlier, those 7 questions, the repetitive ones. They're doing things that if you put in our case, an American or yours, an Australian, in, they would get bored with very quickly and quit the job and leave and go somewhere else. And so you have this large turnover because it's not an attractive job. They want something that's higher performing. They want something that's higher satisfaction. So the staff that people have, we're not replacing them. We're supplementing them and allowing that existing staff to work at a higher level.
Yeah, so more productive. But that's a good point. Is there anything then, I mean, in your experience that you wouldn't give VAs to do? Like, have you found there's tasks people have tried to delegate that hasn't worked?
I honestly haven't. Again, we've placed high-level accounting people. We've placed anything in the customer service realm, admin, sales support.
But you build in some safeguards. We have an attorney that had quite a few, and they were ordering files and using, I don't know, Visa card or Amex or something, because these files had to be paid for. They just set a limit of $500 on every one of those cards so that at any point in time, the VA only had control of $500. So they made a smart decision there. They never had any trouble. Nobody ever stole from them, but you make wise decisions in what you are giving to that individual. And, we'll have clients that'll say, well, I'm worried about my data. What if they get my client list? Well, you hire somebody locally that can go start a business and compete with you. These people in the Philippines aren't typically going to compete with you. I mean, they might could online or something, but it's not like they're going to walk down the street and start stealing your clients.
But as far as tasks, I can't think of any client that has come to me that I went to from a job description and went, no, I can't help you.
Yeah. So typically when you're hiring these people, then you've got to have a clear job description. This is what that person's got to do. Because I've seen people with VAs also struggle because they try and give them too many variances of things to do. Like they want them to do web development, they want them to do accounting, and they're two different.
I don't let them
people,
do that.
Yeah. Oh, good.
I actually stopped that because, and again, I kind of say it's sort of like a salesy accountant, right? You can't, that doesn't, like, naturally we know that doesn't work. But I think everybody goes, oh, well, I just have a hodgepodge of stuff. And so one of the things,
I'll let my accountant pitch, to my next biggest potential customer. No.
So I really kind of, again, help kind of groom our clients into saying, okay, well, let's break it down. And we have a list of, 40 things that a virtual assistant can do. And we have a way to get your fastest ROI. So we have some tools and things like that we can help them. Really
is that list somewhere that somebody can go and download it? Have you got a link to that or?
Sure, I sure do. You can go to HireSmartVAs/tasks. TASKS. And you should be able to it does require an opt-in. But
it's okay. Yeah. But that could be really helpful for people because I think a lot of people struggle with that. And they're not sure what they can and can't delegate to a VA. And I think you guys have been doing it for so long now. That would be a great resource. So even if they got opt in for it. So we'll make sure that's in the show notes so people can go and download that. What if somebody's thinking about hiring a VA? What would your words of advice be? Like if they're just their very first VA?
I mean, I'm a little biased. I'd say talk to a professional, but if they were intent on doing it themselves, I would say get very clear on what you want this person to do. Define your expectations, and in the interview process, talk about what it is that you expect them to do. There's a wide variety of testing software out there. We're very big on testing software because then it takes the personality out. We're looking at, and it's more than just DISC. DISC is a great place to start, but if you don't really know DISC profiling and how that works, it can get really kind of skewed. And the Philippines is the DISC profile interpretation is a little different. These are all things that literally we've spent years kind of cultivating, but clear communication and good expectations would be the first thing that I would say.
Yeah. And too many entrepreneurs and business people want to have a job interview, and they want to make it all about what they've done with their business. And they don't really drill down into the individual. It's like, oh, I got this great business. And, they're trying to sell their business rather than trying to let that person sell themselves to them.
Yeah. So do you find with VAs, how much do they have to provide, and how much does a company have to provide? Things like computers and phones and things like equipment, office.
So we declare the equipment that our people are giving. So when I give the 3 candidates, we actually detail out their internet speed, their physical computer and equipment, and in
what
that
processor
way,
they have,
all of
one
that,
screen, 2 screens, whatever details.
So the VA would normally provide the equipment.
Yes, to a degree. So a lot of, like myself, I want my VAs to have 2 monitors. Well, they're only required to have 1, so I'll pay for the other one, right? Because I would pay for that for an employee. But the base computer portion is handled by the VA, unless you have something specific that you want them to do. So some of my clients have very specialized, very intense processing that needs to be done, and they will purchase a computer for the
like
VA.
A Mac computer or something where they traditionally.
Is that relatively easy to do, remotely?
Easy is not super easy.
No.
we make it easy, but
we make it easy. But right now, acquiring anything during COVID is really challenging. But you don't want to buy it here and ship it. It costs a fortune to ship stuff in. So you need to have a way to acquire it there locally.
Yeah.
So, correct.
Because that's a bit of a gotcha, I think, for people that, because if you're hiring somebody, and I mean, I wouldn't know where to start if it wasn't for an agency anyway. If I was going to hire a VA, and I've had VAs work for me in the past on projects, and it's always been through an agency because it's just much, much easier. I don't know, wouldn't even know where to start. Couldn't even imagine. If people wanted to learn more about, you guys have obviously got a service there that people could use. How would they go about contacting you to find out more?
Oh, it's super simple. So you can go to hiresmartvas.com and then /appointment. You can actually book a time to speak with me if you are interested. Or again, email is Anne, A-N-N-E, at hiresmartvas.com.
Awesome. Now we'll put that all in the show notes. And do you deal with people all over the world? I'm assuming you do. Yeah.
It's paid in US dollars. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah,
but yes.
Dollars convert anywhere. I'm sure that's not a problem. But yeah, we have clients all around.
Yeah. And typically, I mean, you mentioned before it's saving 50 to 75% on an annual salary. So and that's pretty typical you're finding on a position?
In the US, absolutely.
Yeah.
The cost for the salary is $18,720 US a year is
for the
VA salary, and then our placement fee is $24.95. So you can, so less than $21,000 a year all in, you get everything you need to be totally successful.
And if you're going to hire somebody of any quality to do anything that's going to stick around on a job, at least here in the States, depending on where you're at, from California is at a high, and New York or down into Georgia, when you take a payroll cost of $20, $25 an hour, you add in all the benefits and all the payroll taxes and all the fees,
vacation.
That's another 35 to 50% on top of that. So you're looking at $40 some an hour versus $9 an hour. And people look at that and they say, wow, I can hire 3 or 4 people, get that 3 or 4 times as much work done, and then they can pay a better quality pay to their regular staff, their boots on the ground that they're have their local, and have them happier and going home at 5:30 like one client.
I mean, our employee literally works part-time for a dog rescue. We know that. We're fine with that.
She didn't have enough work now. We've taken it away.
Because our VAs are just so amazing. And then she, gets to do more of what she wants to do. So truly,
we're all happy though.
She's been with us for 12 years and she's the happiest now that she's ever been. And it's all because we went and hired virtual staff to support her.
And so she does twice as much revenue generation work, but
Or
doesn't do all the phone calls and the email of the repetitive questions, and has all that free time to work on the dog rescue. So we all come out ahead.
Yeah. And not to mention, I mean, you've also got the savings in office space. You haven't sort of mentioned that as well. It's one of the things I was talking to a finance broker. We was going through the throes of buying a new car. And I was talking to my finance broker, and their office is in my street. And she said to me, don't come to the office. I said, why is that? She said, because no one's there anymore.
Yeah.
What this COVID thing has made us realize is we can all work from home. We don't have to commute anymore. And they said, we probably won't renew the lease there. We won't come back. I thought, well, that's
a lot of people aren't going to come back.
Yeah. Commercial office space is going to hurt.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And so this opens up that whole world as well. And I think, it's great to hear what you guys are up to. I really love the fact that you're here to share as well and help other people, because it is a bit overwhelming, I think, for people to hire VAs. So you can head across to hiresmartvas.com and /task for that free download. That's a great gift there. That'll give you an idea of what you can hire them for. But I think the message is clear. You've got to hire them like you'd hire anybody else. You've got to treat them like you'd treat anybody else.
Absolutely.
And so, which means you've got to manage them, train them, reward them, all of those things like you would anybody else in your business, and you're gonna have success.
That says it very well.
That's
very good.
Yeah. Well, once again, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been great chatting to you guys all the way from Georgia, Atlanta.
Thank you, Ben. We appreciate you being on your show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we appreciate you coming on board as well. Now, if you've enjoyed today's episode of the Business Brain Food Podcast, head across to your favorite podcast player. Leave an honest review or rating. We do read them all. We love to get your feedback. Tell us what you love about the show. Tell us what you don't love about the show. We don't mind either way. We're just all about improving what it is that we do. And just a reminder that today's show was brought to you by maxmyprofit.com.au. The team at Maxmyprofit help you build the business you imagined. So if you're imagining something that was more profitable, more fun, or made you more money and gave you more time to do the things you love in life, but you've ended up with something that's a bit clunky, like a bit of a ball and chain that you don't like, that, I don't know, keeps you awake at night because you're not sure where your next dollar's coming from, you pay your next bill, then head across to maxmyprofit.com.au and talk to the team about helping you build the business that you imagine. Now, on the final note, this has been streamed live into a private Facebook group called the Business Brain Food Group. on Facebook. For those of you that are live in there, g'day, and thank you for joining us today live. For those of you that are listening to this as a recorded podcast, you can get early access to these episodes and a little bit of behind the scenes as well by joining that group. There's over 1,000 entrepreneurs in that group having a good old time, and you are missing out. So head across to facebook.com, look for the Business Brain Food group, and make sure you join that today. All righty, well, I've been Ben Fewtrell. You've been fantastic for tuning in. Hopefully that's helped you understand a little bit more about how to hire the perfect VA. And of course, if you're not sure what to do yourself, then you can head to hiresmartvas.com and they'll do it all for you. How good's that? That's exactly what you want to do. You want to make life really, really simple, and they'll certainly help you do that. So once again, it's been great having you on the show today. Until next week, have a very profitable day. See ya. All right, perfect. Thank you so much. We're still live in Facebook, so thank you to those of you in Facebook land, and thank you, Mark and Anne.
Thank you very much. It was great.
Thank you so much for allowing us to be on your show. We do appreciate it, and hope you got some good content that you can use. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's always good to talk to people like yourself that are on the front line and not just selling a service, but using the service yourself, because it makes it real, doesn't it? I mean, you've had the yourself.
Well, we didn't start this whole thing with this intent, but it just blossomed because so many people were like, "Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me?" We're like, we might as well create a business around this.
They say if you want to sell lots of hot dogs. No, but they say if you want a successful business, find some hungry people and sell hot dogs. And I think that's what you're doing. You find, I mean, it's definitely a big opportunity. And for those of you that are watching this live on the Facebook stream, if you're not using a VA, I still have several people that are virtual around the world. I don't have anybody full time these days. I actually part-time mine out. I just task
which is fine. That's another, we started that.
That's how we started 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I need a logo. I need this. I need that.
Yeah, Upwork, we did all of that. And so, it's a great way to get kind of your feet warm. But once you feel like, okay, I got this.
And very specific things as well. If you find somebody who's got a very specific skill set, like maybe they're good with building landing pages, or maybe they're good with, like for this podcast, for example, my show note writer over in the UK, he's been doing this show note writing for me for 5 years. So the same guy. So very good. So once again, I'm going to end the live stream there. Thanks for joining us live in the Facebook group.